Hey guys, it's Larilyn again, House of Dakota Design. Watch me as I sew up Simplicity 8982. I'm going to go with view C for the blouse and probably view D for the skirt. I'm probably going to make it a little bit shorter than the midi length that's in the photo here. Follow along as I sew this beauty up. I've chosen this geometric print, multicolored stretch knit. It's going to be so cute. So for this project, for view C for the top and view E for the longer skirt, I'm going to need approximately about 2.5 yards, according to the instructions, of the chosen stretch fabric. All right, guys, so I have all of the pieces cut out here for the Simplicity 8982. I'm going to go with, again, view C for the top and view E, the longer skirt. So you're going to need 2 pieces of the sleeve, and that's actually the top sleeve as well as the sleeve band. And the sleeve band is right here. You're going to need 2 of those pieces. And that sleeve band, that number is number 10. So the sleeve is number 9. You're going to need 2 pieces. The sleeve band, number 10. You're going to need 2 pieces of that as well. For the front, number 5, you're going to cut 1 on the fold. Number 6 calls for 1 on the fold as well. Then the neckband, piece number 8, you're going to need 1 of those. And then for the skirt, the front of the skirt is piece 11. You're going to need 1 of those on the fold. And for the back part of the skirt, number 12, the pattern directions calls for 1 on the fold. I'm actually gonna cut it into 2 pieces. And the casing, which is 13, you're going to need 2 of those as well. Okay, so moving on to the front, you're going to need pieces 5 and 6, the front and the back, of which you're going to put right sides together, and we're going to stitch the shoulder seams. Step 2, we're going to take the neckband, piece 8, and you have center back. Make sure you've marked all of your notches on your pieces, on all of your pieces, because that's very important for the proper alignment of your seams and the connecting pieces of the garment so that everything fits and it's constructed well. So again, piece 8 for the neckband, you're going to stitch the center back seam. That's step 2 after you stitch the shoulder seams. I'm going to be using the Singer 201 vintage Singer sewing machine that's behind me, and this is such a gem. It's really, I believe, the Cadillac of sewing at that time period. Singer made some awesome machines, and this one's 71 years old and it's still kicking. Just a little oil and keeping it maintained. It's really all that it needs. I'm using a dual polyester cotton thread here, and again, this is a knit stretch material. I'm using just a regular organ needle with this machine, and it's sewing just fine. So we'll see how well this beauty comes together. Meet you at the sewing machine. Okay, so at this point we have sewn the shoulder seams front to back together, right sides together. We've sewn the center back seam of the neckband. At this point, you're going to take the neckband and you're going to, of course, fold it in lengthwise, wrong sides together. And you're going to pin that to the inside. So you should have a nice tube for the neckband. And if you've marked your notches properly or marked those points of where the notches should be, you're going to line that up with the notches on the back part of the neckline. You have dots, you're going to match up to the shoulder seam, and you're going to stitch within that tube all around at your normal 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. And when you're completely done with the stitching, you should actually have a neckband and front section that looks like this. So it's looking really cute coming together. That's the front, and that's a view from the back. All right, guys, so we're moving on. There's a little back stitch. And we're finishing up the neckband. Okay, so this is the front part of the neckband that's facing me, and this is the front of the blouse. We're going to top stitch very close to the actual seam allowance you feel underneath of the neckband. I'm probably about 1/8 of an inch away from where the neckband is attached to the blouse, and I'm going to top stitch that all around. And step 8 for the blouse is to just close up the side seams, and you're pretty much done. That's almost done before we get to our sleeves. Here I am continuing with the top stitching of the neckband to the top of the blouse from the outside, and I'm about 1/8 of an inch away from where the neckline attaches to the blouse, and I'm going to stitch that tube all around. Just want to take your time, and you've stretched it as you've sewn it, and you're going to continue holding the bulk of the fabric to your left down to make sure nothing bunches underneath the presser foot. And a nice even stitch all around. Slow and steady wins the race, guys. Slow and steady wins the race. There's nothing compared to slow fashion. Nothing compared to slow fashion. A little back stitch there. All right, that's it. Okay, so that's the actual finished look. That's from the back, the top stitching around the side. So all of that, guys, on a 71-year-old vintage Singer 201. So at this point, you're just going to sew up the side seams. Again, turn this blouse right sides together, stitch your side seams, and of course I've clean finished my edges before doing this. And make sure when you clean finish, you want to make sure you've gone back and you've marked where those notches are going to be, because you've got one on the front and the back so that those side seams align properly. So here's a view of the blouse of where I am so far. The neckband has been top stitched. You can see that top stitching all around the neckline there. That's the finished portion of the inside. That's clean finished there. I've sewn the side seams down, and we're moving on to the sleeve. So you have piece number 9 as well as the sleeve band. You're going to need that as well. Pay attention to the notches that you have here on your pattern. You want to use your longest machine basting stitch to gather between the notches here, as well as gather along the bottom band of the sleeve using long machine stitches. So according to the instructions, you're going to do a gathering stitch along the top. Again, within the seam allowance, you're going to do another long machine stitch within the seam allowance, and the same thing along the perimeter. Because it's this portion of this wide sleeve here, you're going to have to fit all of that circumference into the sleeve band. Okay, so you got 2 places to gather, the top of the sleeve cap as well as the bottom that goes into the sleeve band or cuff. Okay, so I have my machine on its longest stitch length here on the Singer 201, and you're going to make sure that you have your bobbin thread and your top thread pulled back, because you want to have those out and a long tail when it's time to do the gathering. So again, we're going to stitch the longest machine stitch between the notches here. those threads, leaving a long tail here as well. Re-pulling the threads to the back, and you can see the long gathering stitch here. You're going to go back within the seam allowance again and do the same thing to have that extra leverage when it's time to do your gathering. Leaving that long thread. And what I typically do next is to grab my bobbin thread from the back of the material, both of those, and basically you just hold on to those and you start the gathering process. And you want to take your time and you want to make sure it's nice and even as you're pulling those all the way around. And you're going to do the same process of the gathering with the longest basting stitch to the bottom of the sleeve as well. I'm just gathering the stitches along the bottom of the sleeve here as well, making sure that you leave that long thread on the tail for the gathering. So that's a glimpse of the top of what that gathering of the cap should look like, and the same thing at the bottom. Well guys, to be 71 years old, this baby is humming. So that's the last gathering portion of the bottom of the sleeve. So this is the second one. We're going to finish the same, and then we'll move on to attaching it to the blouse. Okay, here, so we have gathered the top portion of the sleeve. We've gathered the bottom portion that goes into the cuff. And we're going back to our normal 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, and we're going to stitch down the underarm seam, and you're going to do that for both of your sleeves. We're going to back stitch here, and again I have my setting at about 10 stitches per inch. And guys, the performance on this machine is about the same, if not better, than some of my very expensive modern day machines. And I won't name those because I love those too, but you can't sleep on these vintage Singer machines. They get the job done to be a solid straight stitch, because that's basically all you need it for. Okay, so I'm going to turn this one inside out for you to get an idea of what you're working with at this point. So you have your sleeve cap here, and that's the bottom part that's going to be gathered into the cuff. So it's going to be really cute. So same thing for the other side, and then we'll move on to stitching it into the blouse. So we're moving on to step number 12, and we're looking at the sleeve band. The sleeve band. We're going to take both of your pieces, right sides together, and remember, look at the notches on the pattern. You're going to take the end with the two double notches. You're going to put those two together. So you've got an end with a single notch and you've got the edge with the double notch. You're going to fold that right sides together, and then you're going to stitch that in according to number 12. So if we turn the sleeve band this way, makes it a little bit easier. That's your double notched end here. You're going to stitch from the top all the way to the bottom with your traditional 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. You're going to do that to both pieces. And then you're going to fold that sleeve band in half, just like you did with the neck piece. Wrong sides together with those raw edges even. And if you want to press it, you know you can. This is knit, so I really didn't worry about doing that. I probably could, but you know I didn't. And on the outside, you're then going to pin the lower band to the lower edge of the sleeve. So then you'll be looking at the right side of the sleeve with the right side of the band is what you're looking at here. And then you're going to pull up those gathering stitches to make sure it fits nicely, you know, around your wrist circumference, and then stitch again within a 1/4 inch of a seam allowance, and then trim close to the second stitching. At this point, number 14 is just saying press the sleeve towards, pressing towards the sleeve and pressing the band out. So we're going to go through steps 12, 13, and 14, attaching the sleeve band to the sleeve. Okay, so this is the sleeve band portion. We've stitched down the 5/8 of an inch seam allowance here, and we're doing the same thing to the other one. Okay, sleeve band done. So at this point, what you should have is your sleeve cap, and this is the tube of the sleeve band. So you've pinned them right sides together, and you're stitching all around. Okay, so we're moving on to step 15. We're taking the actual blouse, and it's turned wrong side out, and you have the actual sleeve and sleeve band you're going to insert inside. So essentially you're looking at the wrong side of the blouse and the wrong side of the sleeve and the sleeve band, which looks like this. You want to match up your seams, you want to match up your back notches, the front notches, and you want to match up the dot at the shoulder seam, and you're going to stitch around that tube once again and the traditional or the normal 5/8 of an inch seam allowance for this pattern. And you'll do the same thing to the other side. When you're done, you'll finish up the hem of your choice, and that's pretty much it. I've serged the bottom edge of this, but I'll probably go ahead and finish it off with another 1/4 of an inch turned, you know, in, and once again a double fold, and then top stitch, and that's it. Okay, so here I'm just stitching the sleeve into the top of the blouse. 5/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way around the tube. And back stitch. Okay, so once that's done, let you see as we turn this out what it looks like. All right, so that's the top of our sleeve cap all the way around. Nice and neat, no puckers. And we've got the bottom, our side seam and sleeve. Those seams match up perfectly. So that's pretty much what you want on both sleeves. You'll work on that, and then you can give it a decent press if you choose to. Finish up the hem, and your blouse will be done. Designer blouse, guys, coming along on a Vintage Singer 201. Okay, so here I'm working on the hem. I have the bottom turned up about 1 inch all around, and I'm actually going to do a top stitch. So I can feel my hem underneath. It stops about here. So I've got the presser foot lined up there, and I'm gonna stitch all the way around to top stitch. And I wanna set this a little bit longer stitch. I'm probably gonna go up to about 12. You can kind of see that right here. I've got it set at about 12. My regular stitch was about 9 or 10, but I'm gonna do this top stitch at about 12. Okay, here we go. So this is the finished garment. And that's a peek from the inside. So I will do another video styling my favorite Simplicity 8982 puffed sleeve knit top with the mock turtleneck. Thanks for watching, guys. This is Larilyn with House of Okoti. Consider following me on my other social media platforms, Instagram at House of Okoti, Facebook, House of Okoti Design and Gifts, as well as TikTok, House of Okoti Design. And if this is your new to the channel, please consider liking and subscribing to this YouTube channel as well, following my sewing, design, and embroidery journey through my retirement gig. Have a great day, guys. Bye.